धन्यवाद
धन्यवाद
राजकुमार जी। और मैं सभी जिज्ञासा के साथियों को प्रणाम करता हूं। लेट मी एट द वेरी आउटसेट कंग्रेचुलेट ऑल ऑफ यू फॉर सक्सेसफुली completing 4 years on the 4th anniversary of this Jigyasa. I heartily compliment and congratulate Rajkumar ji and the entire team of office bearers and other functionaries. आज एक देश और दुनिया में जब परिस्थिति एक विकट स्थिति से देश और दुनिया गुजर रही हो, ऐसे में हम ये चर्चा कर रहे हैं, तो मैं मानता हूं कि सबसे पहले हम इस कोरोना महामारी के प्रकोप का जो शिकार हुए लोग हैं उनके प्रति हमारी संवेदना व्यक्त करें सामूहिक रूप से। और मैं ये भी मानता हूं कि जितने लोग इस कार्यक्रम में जुड़े हैं, आप सब लोग स्वस्थ होंगे, और जो वैक्सीनेशन की प्रक्रिया शुरू हुई है उस प्रक्रिया का लाभ जितना जल्दी हमको मिल सकता है, आई नो इट इज़ नॉट ईजी, पर जितना जल्दी मिल सकता है उसका लाभ हम लें, क्योंकि इस प्रकोप का एकमात्र कोई निराकरण या उपाय है तो वो वैक्सीनेशन के रूप में ही है। आज एक विशेष विषय पर कुछ चर्चा करने का मुझे सुझाव मिला था। द मोदी गवर्नमेंट in its second tenure will be completing 2 years on the 30th of May, that is 30th of this month. That will be the completion of 7 years of Modi ji in government, in power, and 2 years of Modi 2.0. Before I talk about the 2 years of Modi 2.0, let me take you back to 2014 when the Modi 1.0 came to power about 7 years ago. At that time, there were 3 important factors that had led to a massive victory for the BJP under the leadership of Shri Modi ji, who became Prime Minister again in the month of May in 2014. Those 3 factors were: number 1, of course, the attraction, the charisma of Prime Minister of Modi ji himself. He was the Chief Minister of Gujarat at that time, but he had an all India appeal, all India attraction, all India charisma. That played a very important role in the victory in 2014 elections. The second important factor was the united and spirited campaign that was run by both the party cadres as well as the cadres of entire Sangh Parivar. That also played a very, very important, crucial role in bringing BJP to power in 2014 elections. Incidentally, there was a third factor which was not less important, and that third factor was the failures or misgovernance of UPA 2. So these 3 factors together helped in catapulting Chief Minister Modi into Prime Minister of India with a simple, comfortable majority of 282 seats for the BJP. 5 years down the line, when 2019 elections came, very interestingly, Prime Minister's charisma, his popularity, did not diminish. Conventional political wisdom says that with each passing year in power, the anti-incumbency factor comes in. Your incumbency will become your, in a way, your burden. But Modi ji successfully defied that incumbency factor, and when the elections to parliament happened in 2019, he came out as a much more popular leader than what he was in 2014. So his popularity and charisma not only remained, but it got enhanced more. The second factor also was anyway there, the strengthened party organization network under Amit Shah, and of course the Parivar cadre. This was also there. But the third factor which helped Modi come to power in 2014, namely the UPS misgovernance, was no longer there in 2019. But in its place, Modi ji's 5 years of governance, Modi 1.0 governance, became the third factor in giving a decisive mandate to Modi ji for a second term. In fact, I would say that Modi ji's government went back to people with its report card of 5 years of good governance. These three factors had helped in Modi ji securing a bigger mandate in 2019. We all know that BJP secured 303 seats, and together with the alliance partners, it secured 2/3 majority in the Lok Sabha. Now from there, the Modi 2.0 journey began, which is completing 2 years now. These 2 years, one important factor that stands out in these 2 years has been the one that everybody in the country and in the world noticed during Modi ji's Modi 1.0 tenure, the first tenure. That is Modi ji's decisive way of governance and the frontline role he always played. He led from the front and he was decisive in his governance. These two very unique qualities stood out in his first tenure. It gave him greater popularity because of his hands-on leading from the front approach. He became closer to the people of the country, and that resulted in him securing a much bigger mandate in 2019. That uniqueness, those two special qualities of Modi ji continued in the second tenure also. If you look at the decisions that Modi 2.0 government took in its very first year, not even first year, in the very first few months of 2019, as I said, from June to December was the tenure for Modi 2.0 in 2019. If you look at those 6 months period, so many important decisions were taken with a lot of courage. They were not easy decisions. Some decisions were economic decisions, banking reforms, agriculture reforms. These were economic decisions. But then there were decisions like abolition of triple talaq, which happened towards the end of July 2019. Then the most historic decision of abrogation of Article 370, which happened in the early months of early August in 2019. Then towards the end of that year came the Citizenship Amendment Act. In between, in November 2019 came the judgment of Ram Janmabhoomi, and Modi government did not waste a single minute in constituting a good trust board to undertake to oversee and complete the construction of the Ram temple. All these historic decisions showed to the country that Modi ji continued to be decisive, continued to lead from the front. But then, friends, by then certain challenges also started staring at Modi ji's government. Challenges like pandemic were not any result of domestic situation, like they are not the result of any situation within the country. But other than the pandemic, certain challenges started cropping up, certain challenges started growing in intensity. For example, economy started becoming a sort of a challenge. In international relations arena, similarly in national security arena, certain very serious and new challenges cropped up. And the most important challenge that Modi 2.0 government started facing towards the beginning with the end of 2019 has been the challenge of perception, dharana. I will just talk about these challenges one by one in a few minutes time. Then at the end I will highlight one more challenge that BJP as a party is facing. Then I will be at your mercy. Firstly, the pandemic. As I mentioned, the coronavirus pandemic as a global challenge was before our people also, our country also, in early 2020. Modi, typical of his nature, decided to take it head on, lead from the front again. Certain very timely and significant decisions were taken, starting with February 2020 onwards itself, when there were not even 100 cases in India of the corona infections. Even when there were not even 100 cases, Modi government started proactively taking measures to face it. Restrictions were imposed on people coming from abroad, especially initially from China and subsequently from March onwards from all the countries. Quarantine was implemented, and we announced a lockdown starting with 24th March of that year, which went on for a couple of months. Modi ji actively engaged with the people, advising them what to do, what not to do. So that has helped in India managing the first wave of the pandemic in a relatively better way than many other countries in the rest of the world. I can tell you, when we had say 130,000 corona cases in April, May, America was having 1.5 million, 1.6 million cases, 10 times the cases compared to India. Remember, America's population is 1/4 of that of India. There were horrible scenes to be witnessed on the streets of New York, in many cities in America, in many European cities. In fact, there were countries in Europe which decided not to entertain patients above 60 years of age into the hospitals. They were condemned to their fate in their homes. That was the kind of situation. The more developed, more healthcare establishment-wise, better equipped countries in Western Europe and America were facing at that time. But thanks to the government's proactiveness, the government's timely actions, India could manage that situation with relatively inferior healthcare infrastructure, yet in a much better way than those developed countries of the West. So far so good. But then the second wave that has struck early this year, maybe February, March this year, is causing massive devastation across the country. It is a situation quite depressing for many of us. We come across very heart-wrenching scenes of people not able to access important healthcare infrastructure like hospital beds, oxygen, etc. This is a very tragic situation, no doubt. But remember, even today, although because India's population is very high, we are 1.3 billion strong country. Our numbers are definitely high. Yet with our inferior healthcare infrastructure also, we are able to cope up. We are trying to cope up with the aggression of this pandemic. I am really very sorry. I feel very bad, very pained at the plight of hundreds and thousands of our own brethren, our own people. It is such a devastating thing for every one of us. This time round, the government is facing a much bigger challenge. The challenge is that India's healthcare infrastructure is just not sufficient to cope with this kind of virulence of a pandemic. We don't have enough doctors. In America, for every 700 people, there is one doctor. In India, for every 2000 people, we have one doctor. In America, every 80 people, there is a nurse. In India, every 800 people, we have a nurse. We don't have enough healthcare establishment. We don't have enough hospitals. And we are today paying the price for that neglect. And that neglect is not just 2-year or 5-year neglect. The development of public health infrastructure in our country has been greatly neglected in last 70 years. And today, when a situation like this suddenly came, we are feeling utterly helpless. There is no dearth in commitment, no dearth in desire to help people. But how do you help them when there is no infrastructure available to you? So Modi ji is facing that big challenge, and of course the adversaries, political adversaries as well as other ideological adversaries are trying to use it to project him in bad light, damage his reputation, but in the process they are also damaging the reputation of the entire country. So this remains Modi ji's biggest challenge after 2 years of his 2.0 government. The second challenge is going to be the economy. Economy showed slowing down in 2018-19 itself. The government decided to take certain very bold measures, like the agri reform, the decision act that was passed by the parliament was a major reform in trying to bring India's ordinary small farmers out of utter poverty and backwardness. It's a very important reform. Similarly, another round of major banking reforms were affected. Major reforms for the betterment of small and medium industries have been affected. Modi 2.0 in its 2019 and 2020 budgets has tried to address the challenge of slowing down of the economy. They were all very important measures, but unfortunately, again, the pandemic has thrown water on many of those initiatives. The economy has rolled back by a large number of points. We have had targets like $5 trillion GDP by 2024. In order to achieve those targets, India requires great new innovative efforts again once we get out of this pandemic. I want to highlight one or two aspects about the economy. Number one is Prime Minister's call for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Different people understood it differently. It's not about shutting down. It's not about closing up from rest of the world. It's about making individual investors of India, of our country, whether he is a small shopkeeper or a small industry chalane wala, industrialist of small industry, micro industry, or a big industry, a big businessman, we have to make India's wealth creators stand on their own feet and join the global supply chains. That is what Atmanirbhar means. Atmanirbhar is not shutting down. Atmanirbhar is rather opening up as individual stakeholders of Indian economy. India requires a large number of people who stand up on their own feet and create wealth in this country. So today, India's biggest challenge is wealth creation. Wealth creation is possible only through livelihood creation. I am not using the word job creation. Livelihood creation. So the challenge for Indian economy is going to be wealth creation through the route of Atmanirbharta. The second will be the challenge of innovation. Prime Minister has been pushing very hard for innovation, creativity, developing technologies. But I am sorry to share with you, friends, that in the area of innovations, India lags terribly behind. In the name of innovation, we are only settling for secondary and tertiary innovations. We are nowhere in deep tech innovations. Deep tech innovations require huge investments, huge money. Small countries like Israel have become, innovation states because they invest heavily in deep tech innovations. We need to now turn our attention to innovations in high-tech, deep tech areas like artificial intelligence. It will be a sad commentary. I am very pained to share it with you that in India we don't have any really high standard artificial intelligence laboratory. We need to depend. We did not develop solar cell manufacturing industry in India. So these are frontier areas, future areas. Like that, many areas require much more investment and much more intervention from the government side as well as from private industry side. The third challenge that I mentioned was about security and foreign policy. Modi 2.0 government was suddenly faced with a situation of Chinese encroachment into our areas. We have handled it differently from what used to be the way in the past. We are today standing up to them. We are forcing them to retreat. But that situation remains very precarious even to this day. While the Chinese have agreed to go back in Pangang Tso Lake area, they are still hanging on to territories that belong to us in 2 or 3 other points. India is continuing to put pressure on them. One good thing under Prime Minister Modi was that unlike in the past, today we are not only confronting them diplomatically but also confronting them on the ground. Friends, in the past we never used to confront them on the ground. When there is an encroachment from the Chinese side, we used to talk to them diplomatically. We used to request, beg them. But today we are engaging with them diplomatically, but we are also standing very firm on the ground, asking them to go back. So that situation still remains. But apart from that, we are facing the pressure of our northern neighbor, namely China, in our immediate neighborhood also. It is posing major challenge to India's foreign policy. Countries like Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Afghanistan, India's ASEAN neighbors. In all these areas, we are facing tremendous challenge, tremendous pressure from our northern neighbor. Having said it, in the last 7 years, Modi government has successfully strengthened our ties with Western powers, especially with America. That relationship has grown from strength to strength. in the last 2 years also, especially in the last few months after the regime change in America, we are able to continue with the process of further strengthening of our relationship. Today, in the pandemic situation, although America initially behaved very strangely for a week or so, today the Americans are extending a lot of support to India. They are standing by us at the hour of our utmost difficulty. But friends, this challenge of foreign policy on one hand, national security on the other hand, is going to remain for next 2-3 years for this government to tackle. And the last challenge is the most important challenge as I see it. It is the challenge of perception. Unfortunately, unlike in the Modi 1.0 era, Modi 2.0 era has been subjected to a lot of negative propaganda about the government and about the leader. If you recall, in Modi 1.0, first 3-4 years have been a runaway success for Modi ji, for India. India has been hailed as one of the fast transforming countries in the world. We were standing shoulder to shoulder with all the developed countries, G20, G7, everywhere India was there as a very important country. And Prime Minister Modi's stature skyrocketed after his interventions in United Nations, his other relations with countries, bilateral relations with countries. But suddenly, in the last couple of years, things took a very downward turn. Our enemies and adversaries, they do not have any strength in India. Within the country, they don't really enjoy any strength, but they have their tentacles spread across institutions, academia, media, and civic bodies in the Western countries. There, they have been able to successfully project Modi ji in a very bad light, the government in a bad light. Most progressive decisions like the agriculture reform bill, which should have been wholeheartedly welcomed by Western powers which are market economies, even those bills have been projected as most controversial bills. Issues like CAA have been projected as discriminatory bills. We all know, I don't go into the details of those issues, we all know that those issues are very important, very good issues for India. But somewhere we have not been able to communicate the real significance or real facts about those bills and acts. The adversaries have succeeded in creating a negative perception about these decisions of the government, whether it is Kashmir or CAA or agricultural reform and all these issues. Now Modi 2.0, after 2 years, faces this major challenge of perception also. When perception challenge came, when certain international bodies started downgrading India in terms of democracy, in terms of development and all those things, the reaction from Indian side was either a very smug dismissal, who are you to tell us? Either that smugness or a sort of gussa, angry outbursts. Friends, I think both are not correct. You cannot simply ignore or dismiss this propaganda. Similarly, you cannot simply display anger at them. You cannot shout at them. You cannot burn effigies of Arundhati Roy or other propagators on the streets. We need to effectively counter this propaganda globally. So in that, both the government and many non-governmental institutions like Jigyasa, everybody, Indian media, everybody has to counter this negative propaganda. That remains another important challenge for this government. I feel that of the other challenges that I mentioned, the most urgent challenge is the challenge of perception. Before closing, I would like to mention just one important challenge about the party. The BJP has secured handsome victories until 2018. I'm talking about these victories in elections to different state governments. As far as I remember, the last handsome victory for BJP was in Tripura in 2018, when a 25-year-old Marxist government was unseated and a BJP government was established. But after that, although BJP won very big mandate in 2019 parliament elections, it could not perform so well in a number of assembly elections that happened afterwards. For example, in the last 2 years, there were elections to 9 state legislatures, out of which only 3 could be won by BJP, Haryana, Bihar and Arunachal Pradesh. And these victories were also cannot be described as handsome victories. They were marginal victories. And to the elections that took place to 5 legislatures recently, again BJP could retain Assam but could not secure any major victory subsequently. So it poses a major challenge to BJP organization. There is an expectation that every election should be carried by Modi ji on his shoulders. And Modi ji does his best. He campaigns extensively. He addresses 20-30 rallies for in every state election. Yet BJP has to find ways of strengthening its grassroots organization in the next few years to ensure that it has equally strong presence in the states. Otherwise, today more than half of the country is in the hands of non-NDA and non-BJP governments. Having said it, let me conclude by saying that after 7 years in power, Modi ji still remains the most popular leader of the country. He still remains the only hope for the people. People look up to him today. Today, if there is anger on the streets or anger in social media, which probably many of you encounter, it's not because people dislike him. On the contrary, it is because people have much bigger expectations from him. They want him to be a superhuman. They want him to be a superman and suddenly deliver everything. Nothing wrong. People have that kind of image and that kind of perception about him. When situations don't turn in their favor, then people get angry. Then people start criticizing Modi ji. So this criticism also should be taken in very positive spirit by the BJP and its leadership. It should not be taken as though somebody is deliberately criticizing the government. It is a criticism born out of greater expectations from this government. अगर आप नहीं कर सकते तो कौन करेगा? This is the people's expectation. So after 7 years, that is where Modi ji's government stands today. I thank all of you for your patient listening. Namaskar.